Hi everybody, thank you all for coming to listen to my talk. I'm Axelle, a PhD student from the Human Evolutionary Biology team, and my PhD project focuses on sibling rivalry, the evolutionary mechanisms and consequences in the social primate species, the mandrills. But I'm not going to tell you all about that today. Before getting started, I just want to give you a brief introduction about the theoretical background of my project. So the sibling competition theory is very simple. It just stated that since the amount of parental resources that can be allocated to each reproductive event is limited, we should expect competition between siblings for these parental resources. So we should see competition between same age offsprings that are born in the same reproductive events, but also between offsprings that are of different age, so it means that are born during different reproductive events. So since this theory was stated quite a long time ago now, it has been widely studied across many taxa, and it is now well known that it can affect various parameters such as the morphology, the physiology, the behavior of the siblings, and that it can also have long-lasting consequences on reproduction and survival. So the main problem with all these studies is that they only focused on birds or on bird-rearing mammals, but we know almost nothing on species that produce only one offspring at a time and that have a long developmental period, such as primates. So that would be the main goal of my PhD, trying to understand competition between different age offsprings in primates. More about my primate species, mandrills, they live in the tropical rainforest in Gabon, and we study a population of like 300 individuals in the Mandrillis project since 2012. So this is a very typical mandrill family that you can see on the picture. Mandrills, they live in large multi-male, multi-female groups where females are philopatric and males can disperse when they reach like 6 or 7 years old. They live in matrilineal societies, which means that females inherit their rank from their mother when they are born. And finally, there are seasonal breeders. The birth season happens from November to March, and the fact that they are seasonal breeders is particularly interesting for me because it means that the age difference between siblings is going to be much less variable than it can be in other species. To tell you about the current work I've been carrying over the last few months, I've been investigating whether or not I could find costs or consequences of sibling competition in mandrills. So I first focused on physiological costs, namely on oxidative stress, telomerase length, or morphology, because there are 3 parameters that are well known to be affected by sibling competition in other species. So I estimated sibling competition using the age proximity between siblings, so the age proximity with the younger sibling and also with the older sibling. So my hypothesis is that siblings closer in age will face more intense competition and that it should affect negatively these physiological parameters. So in other words, juveniles that have a really close in age sibling should have higher levels of oxidative stress, shorter telomeres, or slower growth. Unfortunately, I did not find any support for this hypothesis with my data, so it seems that in mandrills, oxidative stress, telomerase length, and growth are not affected by sibling competition. Then I investigated whether I could find consequences of sibling competition on reproductive success later in life. So I used proxies, such as the sexual maturation, so the age at first birth for females or the age at dispersal for males, and also the reproductive performance of females, which is measured by the interbirth interval. My hypothesis were that individuals with a close sibling should mature later in life, and that females with a close in age sibling should have longer interbirth interval during their reproductive life, which should result overall in less offspring produced during their reproductive life. I did not find support for my hypothesis on the sexual maturation, but it seems that the older sibling can affect the reproductive performance of female. This is a very preliminary result that I found last week, which also explains why the graph looks really broad like this, but it seems that females that have a very close in age older brother, it's the blue box here, have much shorter interbirth interval during their reproductive life than females that have older sisters in pink and yellowish, or females that have older, much older brother that you can see in green. So it's quite an unexpected result that we're a bit struggling to understand. So right now I'm currently working to see if I can find social cues that could trigger this effect on interbirth interval, but I don't have any result to show you yet. If you have any questions, don't hesitate, and thank you for your attention.